puts up a three. And goal!
Bearcat Blitz, welcome in everybody to our end of the week show, starting off the month of May here across the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Eltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. No Neil Meyer this week as we just got some cross schedules, all that stuff. No big issue though. We will be back with Neil to get things in the normal swing of things rolling again next Tuesday, and he'll be, I'm sure, back with us on the normal slate of shows moving forward. Some news and notes to get to on the end of the week show here. No big new commitments for Cincinnati basketball and football in the transfer portal, though football did get a quarterback commitment in the class of 2026, their first quarterback commitment. Brooks Goodman out of Blessed Trinity Catholic. We'll talk about that to start the show. Then we'll get into the latest on the indoor practice facility, which has a new name, the Sheekley Indoor Practice Facility. The turf getting installed there. Highlight that with a big date coming up surrounding the Sheekley Indoor Practice Facility and Performance Center, which is going to be the new home for Cincinnati Bearcats football. The $130+ million operation getting ready to open up in just not a couple of weeks, roughly a month and a half, 6 weeks away from opening that. And then on the basketball side of things, an addition on the coaching staff for Wes Miller. We'll get to that news and more on this Bearcat Blitz presented on the Believe Network. Taking a quick break here to hit up our sponsors, and we'll be back at it with the full show after these messages. Starting off on the gridiron during this Bearcat Blitz on May 2nd, 2025, as Cincinnati has secured a commitment in the class of 2025 from Brooks Goodman. Goodman, the 9th Cincinnati Bearcats football commit in this class. It's a class that's ranking just inside the top 60 nationally right now. Still has yet to add a 4-star player or higher, although not really part of the targeting mantra, it feels like, for this staff. They're mostly allocating a lot of those 4-star, usually what would be 4-star dollars, to the transfer portal, which is, I think, a smart thing to do, given how you're more likely to get a known quantity out of the transfer portal, so to speak, than you are from the high school ranks. But Goodman enters the class out of Blessed Trinity Catholic High School in Roswell, Georgia. 6'2", 200-pound quarterback, mostly kind of normal pocket passer, going to sit in the pocket, operates out of the shotgun mostly. Goodman does, has a solid arm, can make a decent amount of throws, layers the ball pretty well from the footage that I saw on his highlights. Decent amount of foot speed, could maybe give you some ability as a runner here or there. Probably try to beef him up to closer to Brendan Sorsby's weight, which I think Sorsby's right around the same height at 6'2", maybe closer to 215, 220, 225. So that's probably what Goodman will end up playing at. And he could be a similar dual threat kind of option to Sorsby, just depending on how much he leans into that aspect of his game moving forward. But chose Cincinnati over offers from schools like Indiana, Liberty, California, and is now going to be a Cincinnati Bearcat as their lone commitment at the quarterback position from the class of 2026, which we will look at right now before we get to the new turf and all that good stuff at the Cincinnati Bearcats Performance Facility, which this class will be the first to really be able to chew on, and the first class to not know anything besides the indoor practice facility. That is for the regular enrollees in the class of 2025. They will also know that as well. But the early enrollees in class 2025, they were out there with the team operating out of Nipper Stadium and not out of the IPF. So that'll change very, very soon. 9 hard commits in the class. Top ranked player is Jaden Wyndham, according to 24/7 Sports, out of Martin Luther King. Safety out of Martin Luther King High School in Detroit, Michigan. 88 overall. All of these talents, 3-star notables as of right now. And I would imagine Brooks Goodman will get a 3-star rating from 24/7 Sports at some point. He is a 3-star prospect on Rivals right now with Neil Meyer's outlet. So that is notable on that front. And also notable, Rivals and On3 have merged to create, I think Rivals is going to be the kind of high school recruiting arm of the new media outlet. And then On3 is going to handle most of the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff that's happening actually in college. So that's cool. Congrats to Neil and everybody and that whole operation. We'll talk about that next week, I'm sure, when he gets back to the show. But Brooks Goodman, part of the 2026 Bearcats class, the latest commit for Scott Satterfield, Pete Thomas, and the entire offense. It's very cool to see them get their quarterback in the fold. And what we're looking at in terms of the overall class right now, 1 receiver, 2 offensive linemen, 1 defensive tackle, and 2 linebackers, plus a defensive back, a special teamer, and they also have Brooks Goodman in the fold as well. So Cincinnati up to nearly double-digit commits in the class of 2026. I imagine Goodman, once he gets that, what I project is going to be a 3-star rating from 24/7 Sports. It's going to have them hovering in the low 50s to mid 50s range nationally, which it might just be where Cincinnati settles in the Scott Satterfield era, just given where the finances are. You don't necessarily want to take those major risks with your money in the high school pool. Rather take those more calculated risks in the transfer portal side of things. And speaking of the transfer portal, they are, I'm sure, very excited. Everybody in the transfer portal that's coming to Cincinnati this cycle, excited to get into the IPF, the Indoor Practice Facility and Performance Center, which had the Mott's Group laying down turf, entering the weekend at the new indoor facility. It's going to be beautiful. I was able to check it out a couple months ago when they were nearly done with all of the rooms and getting it to look like the bones and skeleton of what it's actually going to be. But I posted a hard hat Wednesday on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI a couple of days ago, featuring John Daniel and I believe a representative from the Mott's Group, who were going through the whole operation and going through a couple rooms that are basically finished at this point, with us sitting 40 days roughly from the ribbon cutting ceremony at the IPF, going to be happening on June 11th. And people can go check out the turf going down inside the indoor facility at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. A very, very cool operation. They're going to have like cooling. They got all state-of-the-art recovery systems, whether it's hot tubs, saunas, cold baths, red light therapy, which is really cool. That's going to be able to add a whole nother element to be Cincinnati's ability to recover and ability to just stack more reps and get more good work in as a football team. I was talking to Nico Pazzelli, the strength coach, about that a couple of weeks ago at spring football, just when we were taking in some of the practice together, and he is excited. He's got a full notebook, full list of items he's ready to tackle during this next portion of his kind of focused off season ahead of fall camp in just a couple months. And he's going to be able to get to use all the bells and whistles inside that facility very soon. Very happy for Nico and his ability to keep furthering his professional development and the development physically of this Bearcats football team. They say the strength coach is arguably the second most important part of a college football operation. And UC certainly has a good one. And Nico Palazetti going to be able to sharpen the tools and sharpen all of those talents a little bit better and a little bit more detailed, in a more detailed fashion at the IPF in just a couple weeks' time. That covers us on the football side of things. Let's get to the basketball portion of the show after these messages on Bearcat Blitz, with a new assistant coach in the fold, staying in the Big 12 from where he was last season. Back after the show, coming at you on the Believe Network. This is Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Heltman of Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Check out all of our Bearcats coverage there, where we have you with a story around Mamadou N'Diaye, the new assistant coach with Wes Miller and the Cincinnati Bearcats, reported by John Rothstein first a couple of days ago. He is going to be helping with the further development of Mustafa Tiem. N'Diaye was a Senegal native as well, is a Senegal native as well with Mustafa. Very close relationship between those two. Has been coaching for the past 11 years. Most recent stint, obviously, at UCF, where he coached since 2021, was the associate head coach, promoted to that role in September of 2024. And quote here from UC head coach Wes Miller: "We are thrilled to welcome Mamadou to Cincinnati. His experience at every level of basketball makes him a tremendous asset to our program. He not only is a respected coach, but also an elite mentor and recruiter. Our team and staff will benefit greatly from his leadership and knowledge of the game." He also coached at the University of San Francisco, at Coastal Carolina, Georgia Tech, where I believe he was there with Chad Dollar, the assistant coach, other assistant coach with Cincinnati right now. And DA said, quote, "I'm incredibly excited to join Coach Miller and the Bearcats family. They have a proud basketball tradition, and I look forward to helping this program continue its ascent in the Big 12 and on the national stage." This is great for the Bearcats. Great get for the Bearcats, in my opinion. It's immediately replacing the left open role on the bench by Drew Adams, who took a spot with Darren DeVries on the Indiana coaching staff over with the Hoosiers. And what have Neil and I been talking about so much over the past couple of years? The lack, not necessarily lack of overall development, because wings and guards have developed under Wes Miller, but the big men have struggled a little bit. Arrington Page, we never saw really any development out of him last year. Aziz Bandago, some minor offensive development here or there, but really never was able to catch the ball consistently, never able to put the ball on the floor, never really flashed much of a back to the basket game and a low post game. This is where N'Diaye comes in. This is where he can help facilitate the highest level of growth for a guy like Tyler McKinley coming off his knee injury, for a guy like Mustafa Tiem, who he's already had a great close relationship with. They've been just kind of tied to the hip for the past few years, essentially. And he's going to be able to continue helping Mustafa become the best possible player he can be, a guy that could be a first-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft if his development goes the way it can ceiling-wise. And then Halvin Zealot, another guy that is going to require some serious polishing. Not that he doesn't have the talent, but he's raw. He's a raw player with a lot of skill. I will say that, a lot of skill for Halvin, just not a lot of refinement. So we'll see if N'Diaye can help really put these things together and maybe add some things to Jalen Haynes' game as well. A very experienced, very well-polished player offensively in the low post is Jalen Haynes, but always room for improvement there as well. And we'll see what N'Diaye can bring in that aspect of the game. Overall, though, it seems like Baba Miller is kind of the top target and the top big final piece for Cincinnati to add to this roster. There has not been much other movement on the transfer portal side of things in the past few days to weeks. Looking at the tracker, great job done as always. I got to shout out Eric Lilly from the Bearcat Punch. He does an amazing job with the transfer portal tracker for Cincinnati basketball and football. He does it with football as well. But Baba Miller has been followed by Andre Morgan, followed by Kirk Carissa last week or earlier this week. Yeah, last week, I think it was, late last week. And there hasn't been any other movement for Cincinnati in the past 10 days. No reported contact with any player since April 24th. So Baba Miller, I think, is the big kahuna that they're going after. The 6'11", 215-pound player with 1 year of eligibility left, can spread you out, can hit things all over the floor, can be a really versatile piece for Cincinnati to use in different spots on the Wes Miller offense. So Baba Miller would be really, really cool to get into the fold, and I think it would really help Cincinnati become not necessarily a guaranteed lock to make the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying that until we get to January, but they will have put themselves in position once again in the third consecutive year, in my opinion, of elevating the talent on the roster. And Baba Miller would do that. 6'11", 215-pound junior, 11.3 points, 1.7 blocks, 7 rebounds last season on 48.6% shooting. that would be a formidable front court and a versatile front court at that. So we'll see if they can pull it off on that front. And we'll see what Mamadou N'Diaye brings to the table. And he's bringing an awesome defensive talent with him to Cincinnati at that. And Mustafa Tiem, who, shout out Evan Miyakawa from evanmaya.com. He has his projections for defensive Bayesian performance rating up for next season. And Mustafa Tiem came in at number 5 in the nation in terms of top defensive players in the transfer portal overall this cycle. He is going to be a lot of fun to watch at that size and that length on the court at Fifth Third Arena this coming fall and winter. It'll be very, very cool to see it all go down with Mustafa Tiem. Other than that, I don't know if we touch on, I think we touched on, Rayvon Griffith going to Kent State in the transfer portal. There have not been any movement outside of that. Him and Arrington Page were the most recent Cincinnati Bearcats players to join the portal and make their decisions. Who else? CJ Anthony headed to Iona with his final year of eligibility. Hopefully CJ can light up the MAAC and have a great, great final year of college. He was an awesome bench piece, awesome bench voice for the Bearcats over the past few years. And Tyler Betsy, the lone name waiting in the wind right now for the Cincinnati Bearcats in terms of players who have entered the portal and have not yet found a home. A lot of different lineups, a lot of different names, different coaches. That's college basketball in the modern era. We're going to be seeing a whole new look for the Bearcats this fall. Neil Meyer and I will have you covered on all of it. For Mr. Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz presented on the Believe Network. We'll talk to you all again next week. Have a great first weekend of May, everybody. And shout out and congrats to everybody running the Flying Pig Marathon if you're doing that in the Tri-State this weekend. Enjoy.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.